By the time most people admit they're bad with money, the damage has usually already taken root, not because they're foolish, but because the modern world punishes financial confusion with quiet, compounding cruelty. Bills don't arrive like villains, they arrive like weather. Rent creeps up, food costs drift, interest piles on top of old decisions, and the calendar keeps moving whether anyone is ready or not. As 2026 begins, the pressure isn't just higher prices, it's higher uncertainty. Work feels less stable, careers feel more competitive, and the same technology that makes one person more productive can make another person replaceable. Healthcare surprises still land like lightning. A single month can split a life into before and after. And the most unsettling part is that none of this requires a dramatic crisis. It only requires small leaks left unattended. Welcome to Money Animate, where money isn't treated like a math worksheet, but like a mirror that shows what someone truly values, what they fear and what they avoid. If you want more stories and strategies that keep the tone honest and the outcomes real, subscribe, not as a ritual, but as a quiet commitment to thinking clearly while the world gets louder. Personal finance sounds like a technical phrase, but it's really a survival skill. It's the management of income, spending, saving, and investing across the short term and the long term, so the future doesn't ambush the present. It's how someone turns money from a recurring emergency into a tool. And the reason so many people struggle to answer basic questions, where does the money go? Why does the debt grow? Why does the bank balance feel haunted? Is not because the answers are complicated. It's because the truth is uncomfortable. The truth is that money exposes habits the ego tries to protect. It exposes the difference between what someone says they want and what their daily choices actually fund. In the next few years, that gap will matter more. The late 2026 to 2030 world is trending toward faster change. AI-assisted productivity, shifting labor markets, more contract work, more remote-first lifestyles, more multiple income stream experiments, and more noise disguised as opportunity. In that environment, the winners won't be the people who feel confident. The winners will be the people who build systems that work even when emotions don't. This is education, not personal financial advice, because laws and circumstances vary. It's a blueprint for thinking and acting with discipline so someone can make better decisions and seek professional guidance when the stakes are high. The first step is deceptively simple: define the destination. Most financial chaos is not a lack of effort, it's effort without direction. Without a goal, every purchase can pretend to be progress. A goal gives money a job, and money without a job will find one, usually serving impulses. Convenience or status. Financial success looks different for different lives, and that's fine. For one person, it's a strong credit profile that lowers borrowing costs and opens doors. For another, it's retiring early, or working less, or building a cushion so they can leave a job that drains them. For another, it's protecting family members from inheriting confusion and conflict. But the key is specificity. I want to save more is a wish. I will build an emergency fund that covers 4 months of essential expenses by the end of this year is a plan that can be measured. Goals should be ambitious enough to matter and realistic enough to be pursued without self-deception. Unrealistic goals don't build discipline, they build shame. And shame is expensive because it makes people hide from their numbers, which is how small problems become large. Once the destination is set, the second step becomes unavoidable: budgeting. Not because budgeting is exciting, but because budgeting is awareness. It's surveillance over cash flow. It's removing the mystery. A budget is simply a clear picture of income and expenses so someone stops guessing. People fear budgets because they imagine a cage, but the best budgets are spotlights. They reveal what's happening, then give permission to change it. When someone budgets correctly, they get more freedom, not less. More room for what they truly enjoy, less money bleeding into things they don't even remember 2 weeks later. In 2026, the danger is frictionless spending. One tap becomes a habit becomes a drain, and the drain becomes a story. Money just disappears. Money doesn't disappear. It is escorted away by repeated choices that felt too small to matter. Budgeting makes the invisible visible. Subscriptions that quietly renew. Fees that quietly repeat, convenience spending that quietly multiplies, and lifestyle inflation that quietly turns every raise into nothing. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to become conscious. Then comes the third step, the one that decides whether a bad week becomes a broken year. Build an emergency fund. If budgeting is the spotlight, the emergency fund is oxygen. Without it, every surprise becomes a forced decision, and forced decisions are rarely good. A car repair becomes credit card debt. A medical bill becomes a payment plan. A job disruption becomes panic. And panic is a terrible financial advisor. A common guideline is 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, not the luxury version of life, but the survival version: housing, food, basic transport, required bills. For some lives, that number will feel intimidating. That's normal. The mistake is thinking it must be built quickly or not at all. Emergency funds are built the same way stability is built: slowly, consistently, and without drama. Even small contributions matter because they change behavior. The moment someone has a buffer, they stop negotiating with fear. They stop treating every unexpected event like proof they're doomed. They start responding instead of reacting. In a world moving quickly toward 2027 and beyond, resilience is not a soft concept. It's a competitive advantage. It keeps someone from making desperate choices that cost years. But a buffer can't do its job if debt is still expanding, which brings the fourth step into focus: reduce debt, especially high-interest consumer debt. Debt is not always evil. It can be constructive when it buys an appreciating asset or enables education and skills that increase earning power. But most debt is not that. Most debt is borrowing from future income to consume today, then paying interest as a penalty for impatience. That's why high-interest debt is so corrosive. It doesn't just cost money, it steals flexibility. It forces people to stay in jobs they should leave, tolerate situations they should escape, and accept terms they should refuse. The first mission is to stop adding to the pile. Don't spend more than you earn, not as a motivational quote, but as a law. Then identify which debt is doing the most damage and attack it with focus. Some people prefer paying the highest interest first. Some prefer quick wins for motivation. The method matters less than the consistency. The deeper truth is that debt lives in the nervous system. It creates a constant background stress that makes people spend more to cope, which creates more debt, which creates more stress. Breaking that loop is not just financial, it's psychological. When the bleeding slows and the buffer grows, the fifth step can finally work the way it's meant to: investing. Investing is the act of buying assets expected to grow over time, so the future is funded by more than labor. It's how someone recruits time as an ally. And as the world becomes more automated and more competitive, relying solely on wages can become more fragile. Investing, done sensibly, is a counterweight. But this is also where people get seduced by hype, by passive income fantasies, by the illusion that confidence equals competence. It doesn't. Investing involves risk. The safest mindset is humility. Never invest in something you don't understand well enough to explain clearly. And never confuse a lucky outcome with a good decision. Risk tolerance isn't what someone claims when markets feel calm. It's what they can handle when markets fall and fear gets loud. The goal is not adrenaline. The goal is a plan that survives moods. Diversify where appropriate, keep costs reasonable, avoid chasing stories, and think in years rather than days. In 2026, information moves fast and persuasion is cheaper than ever, including AI-generated persuasion. That means discipline matters more than predictions. A calm plan beats an exciting gamble over the long run. Then comes the sixth step, because modern life makes it hard to avoid: credit cards used with caution. Credit cards can be useful tools, building credit history, offering protections, smoothing cash flow, but they are also engineered to make spending painless. Painless spending is dangerous because the brain doesn't feel the cost. Correct management is boring and strict. Pay on time, preferably in full, keep utilization low, never treat a credit limit like permission. Rewards are not profits if they tempt overspending. And if someone knows that credit cards trigger reckless behavior, the smartest move is not to prove toughness, it's to remove the trap. Pride is expensive. Boundaries are cheaper. Financial maturity is not about looking sophisticated, it's about avoiding predictable mistakes. Step 7 is the one people postpone because it forces them to look at the end: protect family and legacy. Everyone disappears eventually. That isn't dark, it's true. The question is whether the aftermath is orderly or brutal. Basic planning, having a will where applicable. Naming beneficiaries, organizing documents, considering trusts when appropriate, can prevent conflict and confusion. Insurance can be part of that shield too: health coverage, disability protection, life insurance when dependents exist, and property coverage where relevant. None of this is glamorous, but it reduces the ways life can punish the people someone loves. It also reduces stress because uncertainty is expensive. Step 8 is what keeps the whole system from collapsing under burnout. Take time off and delegate when it's rational. The pursuit of financial security is not a weekend project. It's a long campaign. If the process becomes endless punishment, people sabotage themselves just to feel relief. That's why a sustainable plan includes controlled enjoyment, a planned treat, a modest trip, a night out that doesn't become a month of regret. This isn't about being cheap, it's about being deliberate. Delegation matters too, because sometimes paying for expert help prevents costly errors. Tax support, legal guidance for estate planning, or financial planning when situations are complex. The goal is not to do everything alone. The goal is to build a machine that runs even when motivation is low. Now the story tightens, because the real divide isn't between people who earn a lot and people who earn little. The real divide is between people who have a system and people who don't. Without a system, money becomes a constant emergency, a constant negotiation, a constant fear. With a system, money becomes a climate, predictable enough to plan, flexible enough to adapt, and stable enough to survive surprises. Imagine the same shock arriving in late 2026, an unexpected bill, a sudden income drop, a family problem. One life has no buffer and rising debt, so the shock becomes panic, panic becomes borrowing, borrowing becomes payments, and payments become a smaller life. Another life has a buffer and a plan, so the shock becomes inconvenient, not catastrophic. Spending tightens temporarily, the fund absorbs the hit, and the person keeps their dignity because they kept their options. Same world, same randomness, different result. That difference is what personal finance really buys, not luxury, not bragging rights. Options. The climax of personal finance is not a viral millionaire moment. It's a quiet morning when fear no longer checks the bank account before the person does. It's the ability to say no to bad deals, bad jobs, and bad compromises, because survival isn't being financed by debt. And by 2027 through 2030. As technology accelerates and routines become automated, that ability to say no will become a form of power. Because when someone isn't desperate, they negotiate better. They choose better. They wait longer. They invest in skills, health, and ownership instead of quick relief. So start while the steps still look small. Choose a goal that can be measured. Track money until the numbers lose their ability to intimidate. Build a buffer one transfer at a time. Reduce high-interest debt until it stops stealing the future. Invest with patience, not excitement. Use credit like a tool, not a temptation. Protect family with planning, not wishes. Protect your energy so discipline can last. And remember the coldest truth in this entire game: wealth isn't what someone buys, wealth is what they don't have to fear. Money is a tool, but it's also a test of human nature, because the world will always offer comfort today in exchange for suffering tomorrow. The people who win are the ones who learn to see that trade clearly, then refuse it. If this helped sharpen your perspective, stay with Money Animate. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs stability more than motivation, and keep building the kind of financial life that can't be shaken by one bad month. Because the strongest freedom is quiet, and it is earned long before anyone sees it. If this sharpened the way you see money, like the video, share it. Subscribe to Money Animate, and I will see you in the next one.